Karen grabbed my daughter's wheelchair and pulled with vicious force. Emma crashed backward onto the concrete, her spine taking the full impact. She screamed in agony, unable to move her body. Karen simply walked away, thinking we were nobody she needed to fear or respect. But she didn't know who I really was. She had no idea I'm the assistant commissioner of police for our entire county. Her biggest mistake wasn't just attacking a child. It was my child. Before I share this full story with you, please comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Also, please like and subscribe for more real-life stories like this one. The autumn sun cast long golden shadows across Meadowbrook Gardens, our gated community where perfectly manicured lawns spoke of privilege, peace, and prosperity. But that peace was about to shatter into a million pieces, like glass beneath a hammer. I pulled into our driveway at exactly 3:47 in the afternoon, much earlier than my usual arrival time. My phone had been buzzing constantly with frantic messages from my wife, Sarah. My hands actually trembled as I read the last message she'd sent. "Emma, ambulance, Karen, hurry!" Emma, my 12-year-old daughter, my beautiful, brave girl who had already fought so many battles in her short life and won every single one of them with grace and courage. 3 years ago, a drunk driver had stolen Emma's ability to walk. The accident left her spine severely damaged, her legs completely useless, unable to support her weight or respond to her commands. But that terrible accident never touched her spirit, never dimmed the light inside her. Emma learned to navigate the entire world from her wheelchair with more grace, more dignity, and more joy than most people manage on two perfectly functioning feet. She painted beautiful artwork that took your breath away. She laughed with pure delight at the smallest things. She dreamed big dreams of becoming an architect who would design buildings accessible to everyone, regardless of their physical abilities. She wanted to change the world, and I had no doubt she would. I ran into our house, my heart pounding. The front door was unlocked, swinging open. Inside, the house was completely empty. My heart pounded against my ribs like a prisoner desperate to escape from a cell. The silence was deafening, terrifying. Then I heard it. Sirens growing louder, closer, their wailing cutting through the peaceful suburban afternoon. I sprinted back outside and saw the ambulance parked 3 houses down from ours. The emergency lights flashed red and blue against the peaceful suburban backdrop, looking completely out of place in our quiet neighborhood. Neighbors had gathered in small clusters on their lawns and driveways, whispering to each other, pointing toward the ambulance. I pushed through the crowd roughly, not caring about politeness or apologies. Sarah stood near the ambulance, her face pale as death itself, tears streaming down her cheeks in rivers. She saw me and immediately collapsed into my arms, her whole body shaking. "What happened?" My voice cracked with fear and desperation. "Sarah, what happened to Emma?" "Karen," she whispered, her voice filled with rage and grief. "Karen did this. Karen Mitchell did this to our baby." Karen Mitchell, the HOA president. The woman who measured grass height with an actual ruler and issued violation notices for Christmas lights left up past January 2nd. The woman who had made our lives absolutely miserable for 2 solid years, ever since we installed a wheelchair ramp at our front entrance to make life easier for Emma. "Where's Emma?" I demanded. "Where is my daughter?" Sarah pointed toward the ambulance with a shaking hand. I ran, my feet barely touching the ground. A paramedic tried to stop me at the doors, but I pushed past him without slowing down. There, on the stretcher, lay my daughter. Her face was twisted in terrible agony, tears cutting rivers through her pale cheeks. An oxygen mask covered her nose and mouth, fogging with each shallow breath. "Emma, baby, I'm here," I said, grabbing her small hand in mine. "Daddy's here now." Her eyes found mine, and they were filled with pain and fear I'd never seen before in her young life. She tried to speak, tried to tell me something, but only a small whimper escaped past the oxygen mask. "Sir, please step back," a paramedic said firmly, putting a hand on my shoulder. "We need to transport her to the hospital immediately. She has a possible spinal injury. She can't move her upper body at all." The entire world tilted sideways. Spinal injury. Emma's spine had already been broken once in that terrible car accident. The doctors had warned us back then that another serious injury to her spine could mean total paralysis. Complete paralysis from the neck down, forever. No hope of recovery. "I'm coming with her," I said. It wasn't a request or a question. Sarah tells me what happened. Sarah rode with me in the back of the ambulance, sitting beside me while the paramedics worked on Emma. Between heartbreaking sobs, she told me what had happened that afternoon. Emma had been outside painting on her portable easel in front of our house, like she did almost every day when the weather was nice. She absolutely loved painting the neighborhood in autumn. The golden leaves falling from the trees, the orange pumpkins sitting on porches, the way the sunlight filtered through the branches and created patterns on the ground. Karen had approached her, already angry before she even said a word, mad about the easel being positioned on what she called common property, the 3-foot strip of grass between our driveway and the public sidewalk. The same exact spot where Emma always painted. The same spot where neighbors often stopped to admire her beautiful work and chat with her about her art. "She told Emma to move immediately," Sarah said, her voice shaking with a mixture of rage and grief. Emma explained very politely that she was almost finished with her painting, just 10 more minutes. But Karen wouldn't listen to reason. She started screaming about rules and property lines and disrespect for her authority. I felt my blood pressure rising dangerously, my vision narrowing with rage. "Then Karen grabbed the wheelchair handles," Sarah continued, her voice breaking. "She tried to push Emma away forcefully, but Emma held on tight to her easel because she didn't want to lose her painting. So Karen pulled harder, much harder." Sarah paused, unable to continue. She buried her face in her hands, her body shaking with violent sobs. "The wheelchair tipped backward," she finally managed to say. "Emma fell. Her spine took the impact. She hit her head on the concrete, then her back landed at this terrible angle. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the mental image, but was unable to stop seeing it. My daughter is falling backward, her fragile spine taking the full force of the impact. Emma, who had already suffered so much physical trauma. Emma, who asked for so little from life except the chance to paint in the sunshine. Emma, who only wanted to create beauty and share it with others. "Then what happened?" I asked quietly, though part of me didn't want to know. "Karen just left," Sarah said, her voice filled with disbelief. "She walked away while Emma lay there on the ground, crying in terrible pain, unable to move. Mrs. Chin from next door called 911 and called me. Karen just went back to her house like nothing had happened. She didn't check if Emma was okay. She didn't call for help. She just left our baby lying there on the concrete." Something cold and hard settled in my chest at that moment. Not just anger, though fury burned through my veins like acid. Something else entirely. A cold determination, an iron promise. Karen Mitchell had broken my daughter's body. Now I was going to systematically break her entire world piece by piece. Hours crawled by like years. Emma was in surgery. The doctors were working to stabilize her spine and assess the full extent of the damage. They spoke in those careful, measured tones that terrified me more than shouting or panic would have. "The next 24 hours are absolutely critical," the surgeon told us, his face grave. "We won't know the full extent of the damage until she wakes up from the anesthesia. Mr. Crawford, we need to manage your expectations about her recovery." Manage expectations. That's medical speak for prepare yourself for the worst possible outcome. I sat in the hospital waiting room, my head in my hands, praying to a God I wasn't even sure I believed in anymore. Sarah paced back and forth, making phone calls to family members. My phone buzzed constantly with text messages from neighbors, offers of support, prayers, promises to bring casseroles. Then a message appeared from an unknown number that I didn't recognize. I heard about Emma. I'm so sorry. Karen has gone too far this time. I have something you need to see. Rita Gonzalez, 47 Maple Lane. Rita Gonzalez. She'd lived in Meadowbrook Gardens for 15 years. A quiet woman who kept mostly to herself. I'd spoken to her maybe twice in all the years we'd lived there. I called the number immediately. "Mr. Crawford," she answered before the first ring finished. "I have security footage from my camera. It faces the street. It caught everything that happened to Emma." "Send it to me right now," I said. "There's more," Rita said softly, her voice trembling. "I've kept quiet for far too long, and I'm ashamed of that. Karen has hurt people before in different ways, but she's systematically destroyed lives in this neighborhood. I have documentation. Meeting minutes she's buried, complaints she's ignored, rules she's broken herself while punishing others. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Not after what she did to your little girl." "Why now?" I asked. "Why are you coming forward now?" "Because I'm a coward," Rita admitted, her voice breaking with emotion. "Karen ruined my son's college prospects 3 years ago. He wanted to start a small lawn care business to save money for school. Karen had it shut down. She said it violated HOA rules. But really, she just didn't like that he was Mexican. My son gave up on his college dreams after that. He works in a warehouse now, doing manual labor. I was too afraid to fight her. But after watching Emma on that stretcher this afternoon, I can't be afraid anymore." "Send me everything you have," I said. "Every document, every piece of evidence." I watched the security footage on my phone right there in the hospital waiting room. The video quality was remarkably clear, and the audio was crisp enough to hear every word. There was Emma, painting peacefully, her face serene with artistic concentration. Her canvas showed the neighborhood in beautiful autumn colors, golds and oranges and deep reds. Then Karen approached, her face already twisted with anger before she even spoke. I turned up the volume on my phone. "I'd told you before about blocking common areas." Karen's voice was sharp, loud, and aggressive. "I'm not blocking anything, Mrs. Mitchell," Emma said politely, her voice gentle and respectful. "I'm just painting. I'll be done very soon." "You'll move right now," Karen demanded. "I am the HOA president, and you will respect my authority." "Please, Mrs. Mitchell," Emma said. "Just 10 more minutes. I'm almost finished." "Your parents think their crippled child deserves special treatment," Karen spat out viciously. "Well, she doesn't. Rules are rules, and you're not above them." I watched my daughter's face crumble at the cruel word, crippled. I watched her try desperately to hold back tears, to maintain her composure. "I'm sorry if I upset you," Emma said, her voice small and hurt. "I just wanted to paint." "Get off this property right now." Then Karen grabbed the wheelchair handles roughly. Emma gripped her easel with both hands, trying desperately to save her painting. Karen pulled harder, yanking the wheelchair backward with violent force. The front wheels lifted off the ground. Emma's face showed pure panic and terror. "Please stop," Emma cried. "You're hurting me." Karen pulled one more time, viciously, putting her full body weight into it. The wheelchair tipped completely backward. Emma fell, the easel crashing on top of her. Her head hit the concrete ground first, then her back landed at an unnatural angle that made my stomach turn. Emma's scream of pure agony pierced through the phone speaker, a sound that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Karen stood there for exactly 3 seconds, just standing and looking down at my broken daughter lying on the ground. Then she turned around and walked away. She didn't check if Emma was breathing. She didn't call for help or show any concern whatsoever. She just walked away like she'd done nothing wrong. I watched Mrs. Chin run over from her house, watched her kneel beside Emma with shaking hands, watched her pull out her phone to call for emergency help. Tears poured down my face. Not sad tears, burning, hateful tears of pure rage. Sarah looked at me. "What is that?" "Evidence," I said. "Rita Gonzalez sent it, complete security footage of everything." Sarah watched it. Halfway through, she had to look away, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, God, she called our baby crippled. She just left her there suffering on the ground." I made a phone call immediately. "David, it's Michael Crawford. I need you to do something for me." David Park, my attorney, one of the best lawyers in the entire state. "Anything," David said immediately. "I heard about Emma. How is she?" "She's in surgery right now. David, I'm sending you a video. I need you to file criminal charges against Karen Mitchell. Assault, negligence, everything you can possibly think of. I want Karen Mitchell completely buried." "Consider it done, Michael. I'm so sorry this happened." "Don't be sorry. Just help me make this right." Emma came out of surgery at 11:43 that night. The surgeon approached us in the waiting room, his expression carefully guarded. "She's stable," he said, "but the injury is quite significant. She has regained some sensation in her arms, which is definitely positive. But her hands, the nerve damage is extensive. We won't know for several weeks, possibly months, if she'll regain fine motor control in her fingers." I felt Sarah grip my arm so hard it hurt. "What does that mean exactly?" I asked, though I already knew the answer and dreaded hearing it. "It means Emma may never be able to use her hands properly again," the surgeon said gently. "No writing, no drawing, no painting with any precision. We're hopeful, but we also need to be realistic about her prognosis." No painting. Emma's entire world, her escape, her joy, her planned future career. Gone. I felt something break inside me at that moment. Not break exactly, crystallize. Harden into diamond-sharp clarity and purpose. "Can we see her now?" Sarah asked. Emma was awake when we entered her hospital room. Tubes and wires connected her small body to various machines. A rigid neck brace immobilized her head and spine, but her eyes were open and aware. "Mom, Dad," her voice was weak, frightened, small. "We're here, baby," Sarah said, kissing her forehead very gently. "We're right here with you." "I can't feel my fingers," Emma whispered, fear filling her voice. "Dad, I can't feel my fingers at all. How will I paint? How will I create art?" I took her hand very carefully, feeling the warmth of it but seeing absolutely no movement in response to my touch. "We'll figure it out," I promised her, my voice firm despite my broken heart. "Whatever it takes, however long it takes, we'll figure this out together." "My painting," Emma said, tears rolling sideways toward her ears. "My autumn painting. Did it survive the fall?" Sarah and I exchanged glances, neither of us knowing the answer. "We'll get you new paints, new canvases, new supplies," Sarah said. "No," Emma interrupted, more tears flowing. "That painting was special. I was painting it specifically for Mrs. Chin. It's her last autumn in the neighborhood before she moves across the country to be with her daughter. I wanted to give her something beautiful to remember our street by." Did it survive? My heart shattered completely in that moment. Even in her own terrible pain and fear, Emma was thinking about others, worried about someone else's happiness. While Karen Mitchell had shown no humanity whatsoever, my 12-year-old daughter embodied everything good and pure in this world. "I'll find out," I promised. "I'll find out right now." I stepped into the hallway and called Rita again. "The painting Emma was working on, do you know what happened to it?" "Mrs. Chin has it," Rita said. "It's damaged, torn in one corner from the fall, but she saved it. She has it safe in her house." "Thank you, Rita. Thank you for everything." I texted David Park. "Make the charges formal. File first thing tomorrow morning. I want this to be public. I want everyone to know what she did." His response came immediately. "Already drafted. We file at 9 a.m. sharp. I've also contacted the local news stations. They want to interview you." "Set it up," I replied. I had spent 20 years working in law enforcement, 15 years as a detective solving cases and putting criminals behind bars, 3 years as assistant commissioner of police for the entire county, overseeing hundreds of officers. I had power, connections, and resources that most people could never access. I had stayed completely silent about my position in our neighborhood. I never wore my badge at home, never mentioned my work, never threw my weight around or used my authority. I believed strongly in being a good neighbor, not a powerful one. That changed forever the moment Karen Mitchell broke my daughter's spine. The next morning, the news broke. Not quietly, not gradually, like an explosion. David had made absolutely sure of that. HOA president charged with assault after disabled child injured, the headline screamed. My phone rang constantly. News outlets, fellow police officers, city officials, and former colleagues. By noon, the story had gone completely viral on social media. The security footage, with Emma's face carefully blurred for privacy, played on every local television channel. People were outraged. The comment sections overflowed with fury and demands for justice. Donations poured into a medical fund David had set up for Emma's expenses. Over $50,000 came in during just the first 6 hours. I drove home briefly to shower and change clothes. News vans lined our entire street. Reporters called my name and shouted questions. I ignored them all, walking straight to my door. Mrs. Chin stood on her porch, watching. I walked over to her. "Mr. Crawford," she said, her eyes red and swollen from crying. "Emma's painting. I have it inside. I saved it for her." She brought out the canvas. It was torn in the corner and smeared where it had hit the ground, but it was still beautiful. Emma had captured the golden autumn light perfectly, the peaceful feeling of our neighborhood on a perfect fall day. "She was painting this specifically for you?" I said, my throat tight. Mrs. Chin's hands trembled as she held the canvas. She told me that. Such a sweet, thoughtful child. "Mr. Crawford, I gave my complete statement to the police this morning. I told them everything I saw, everything I heard. Thank you for doing that. There's something else," Mrs. Chin said quietly, looking around nervously. "Karen came to my house late last night. She wanted me to say I didn't see anything. She actually threatened to have my property cited for violations, to make my last months here completely miserable." Mrs. Chin straightened her shoulders, finding courage. "I told her no. I told her what she did was pure evil. She laughed at me. She said no one would believe a disabled child over an HOA president." My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "She said that? Those exact words?" "Worse," Mrs. Chin whispered. "She said, 'That crippled brat and her family have been a problem since they moved here. This will teach them their place.'" I pulled out my phone. "Would you be willing to say that on the record to a detective?" "I already did," Mrs. Chin said firmly. "I called Detective Santos first thing this morning. I told her absolutely everything." Detective Maria Santos, one of my best investigators on the force. She must have moved incredibly fast. My phone rang at that exact moment. "Detective Santos is calling." "Commissioner," she said, her voice excited, "we have a situation. Karen Mitchell just tried to flee the county. We found airline tickets to Canada for her. We've detained her at the airport." "Charge her with attempted flight to avoid prosecution," I said. "Already done, sir. There's more. We searched her home with a warrant. We found financial documents. She's been embezzling from the HOA for years, nearly $200,000. I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. "How long has the district attorney known about this?" "I'm on the phone with her office right now. They're talking felony assault, embezzlement, fraud, and witness intimidation. Karen Mitchell is looking at very serious prison time." "Good. Keep me updated on every development." By evening, something completely unexpected happened. The neighborhood rose up as one unified voice. Someone had created a Facebook group called Justice for Emma Crawford. It had 3,000 members within the first day. People started sharing their own stories of Karen's cruelty, stories that had been buried for years out of fear. The Martinez family. Karen had their dog taken away by calling animal control, claiming it was aggressive. The dog was actually a certified therapy animal for their autistic son. The family spent thousands of dollars on legal fees to get him back. The Johnsons. Karen had them cited repeatedly for their daughter's pink bicycle sitting on their own driveway, calling it an eyesore that violated aesthetic standards. She made their lives so miserable that they almost moved away. The Hendersons. Karen blocked their son's birthday party by calling the police for noise violations at 3 UAS in the afternoon on a Saturday. Story after story, cruelty after cruelty. Karen had terrorized the entire neighborhood for years, and everyone had been too afraid to speak up and challenge her authority. Until now. Until Emma. A petition circulated demanding Karen's immediate resignation from the HOA. It got 147 signatures in just 2 hours, nearly every single household in Meadowbrook Gardens. An emergency HOA meeting was called. I attended, sitting quietly in the back row. Karen's vice president, Robert Chin, Mrs. Chin's nephew, stood at the podium. In light of recent events and discoveries about financial impropriety, I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in President Karen Mitchell. Seconded, came a chorus of voices from all around the room. The vote was unanimous, 147-0. Karen Mitchell was removed from power completely, but I wasn't done, not even close. Rita Gonzalez had sent me files, hundreds of pages of documents she'd secretly copied over the years. I spent that entire night reading through them while Sarah sat with Emma at the hospital. Karen had been running the HOA like a personal dictatorship. She had created rules that didn't actually exist in any official documents. She had pocketed money from violation fines. She had systematically targeted families she deemed undesirable, minorities, disabled residents, anyone who challenged her authority in any way. But one document caught my attention and made my blood run cold. An old complaint filed 5 years ago by a family named Peterson. They had a son with cerebral palsy. They had installed a wheelchair ramp, just like we had. Karen had the ramp forcibly removed, citing architectural violations that didn't exist. When the Peterson family fought back, Karen made their lives an absolute hell. Violations every single week. Fines that mounted into thousands of dollars. The stress became too much for them to bear. They sold their house at a significant loss and moved out of state. I found the Peterson family through social media and called them that night. "Mr. Crawford," James Peterson said when he answered, "I saw the news about your daughter. I'm so sorry." "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I found records of what Karen did to your family 5 years ago. Would you be willing to testify if this goes to trial?" Silence on the line for several long seconds. "You're actually going after her," he finally said. "Yes, with everything I have." "Then count us in completely," James Peterson said, his voice firm. "What she did to our family, my son never recovered emotionally. He became deeply depressed. He stopped going to his physical therapy. He's 16 now and still asks why people hated him just for being disabled. We should have fought harder back then. We'll help you fight now." I found 4 other families who had been similarly targeted by Karen, all willing to testify about their experiences. David Park smiled when I gave him their names and contact information. This just became a clear pattern of discrimination and civil rights violations. We can file federal charges on top of the state charges. "We're not just putting her in prison, David," I said quietly. "We're destroying everything she built through cruelty." "Good," he replied. Emma's doctors worked absolute miracles over the following weeks. Slowly, painfully slowly, sensation began returning to her hands. Tiny movements appeared in her fingers. It wasn't a full recovery. It might never be a full recovery, but it was hope. Emma cried tears of joy when she could wiggle her thumb for the first time. Sarah and I cried right along with her. "I want to paint again," Emma said with determination. "Even if it's messy, even if it's not as good as before, I need to paint. I need to create." The occupational therapist brought adaptive tools, special grips for brushes, supports for her wrists. Emma tried to paint. Her hand shook badly. The lines were wobbly and uncertain, nothing like her previous beautiful work. She broke down, sobbing. "It's ruined. She ruined me. I'll never be a real artist again." I held my daughter while she cried. "You are not ruined. You are strong and brave and talented, and you are still the most gifted artist I know." "But my hands don't work right anymore," she sobbed. "Then we'll find new ways," I promised. "New technology, adaptive tools, voice control programs for digital art. Emma, you will paint again. I promise you that." She looked up at me with those trusting eyes. "Promise?" "I promise with everything I am." I contacted the best occupational therapists in the entire country, specialists in nerve damage recovery, experts in adaptive technology for artists. Money was absolutely no object. Emma would have every possible chance at recovery. And slowly, painfully slowly, progress came. Emma learned to hold a brush differently. The shaking gradually decreased. Her lines became steadier with each passing day. 3 weeks after the injury, Emma completed a small painting. A simple flower, not perfect. The lines weren't quite straight, the colors were a bit off, but she had done it herself. She had created something beautiful again. She cried tears of pure joy. We all did. Karen Mitchell's trial became a media sensation across the entire country. The evidence was absolutely overwhelming. The security footage played in court. The jury watched Karen call my daughter crippled and then violently yank her wheelchair backward. Several jurors wiped tears from their eyes. Mrs. Chin testified, her voice shaking but staying strong. "She laughed," Mrs. Chin said. "She laughed about hurting a child and said it would teach them their place." The Peterson family testified. James Peterson's voice broke as he described his son's depression, the years of therapy, the permanent damage done to a child's sense of self-worth. 4 other families told their stories. A pattern of cruelty emerged that was impossible to deny. Then came the embezzlement evidence. Bank records, forged signatures, fake invoices. $187,000 was stolen from the HOA fund over 5 years. Karen's face remained cold throughout the entire trial. No remorse, no tears, no apology, just anger that she'd been caught. When it was my turn to testify, I looked directly at Karen. "My daughter Emma is 12 years old," I said. "She dreams of being an architect who designs buildings that help people like her. People in wheelchairs, people with disabilities. She is kind, talented, and brave beyond measure." My voice stayed steady. "You called her a slur. You assaulted her. You damaged her spine and her hands. You tried to destroy her future because you couldn't stand that she existed in your perfect neighborhood." Karen's lawyer objected loudly. The judge allowed my testimony to continue. "But you failed," I said, still looking directly at Karen. "Emma is stronger than you. She's painting again. Her hands are healing. She will achieve every one of her dreams. And you? You'll have nothing but a prison cell and the knowledge that you destroyed yourself." The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. When they returned, their faces were grim. "Guilty on all counts," the foreman announced. "Assault causing bodily harm, embezzlement, fraud, witness intimidation, discrimination, civil rights violations." The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. The courtroom was packed on sentencing day. Our neighbors filled the gallery, all wearing purple ribbons, Emma's favorite color. Karen stood before the judge, her lawyer beside her. For the first time, she looked small and vulnerable. The judge spoke clearly. "Miss Mitchell, I have reviewed this case very thoroughly. The evidence shows a pattern of cruelty, discrimination, and criminal behavior spanning many years. You targeted vulnerable people. You abused your power. And when confronted, you showed absolutely no remorse." Karen's lawyer tried to speak. The judge held up his hand for silence. "Most troubling to this court is your assault on Emma Crawford, a disabled child. You called her a slur, you assaulted her, and you left her suffering on the ground. The medical evidence shows she may never fully recover the use of her hands. A young artist, possibly disabled for life because of your actions. The judge looked directly at Karen. This court has received over 200 letters. Letters from families you terrorized, from neighbors you bullied, from Emma's doctors describing her injuries in detail, and one letter from Emma herself. My heart clenched. Emma had written a letter without telling us. Emma Crawford wrote, "I forgive Mrs. Mitchell, but I hope she learns that being mean doesn't make you powerful. Being kind does. I hope in prison she finds kindness in her heart, because living with hate must be so lonely." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. My eyes burned. The judge continued, "This 12-year-old child whom you attempted to break shows more wisdom and grace than you have displayed in your entire life." He delivered the sentence. On the charge of assault causing bodily harm, 15 years in state prison. On the charges of embezzlement and fraud, 10 years to run consecutively. On civil rights violations, an additional 5 years. Total sentence, 30 years in state prison, eligible for parole after serving 20 years minimum. Karen's face went white. 20 years minimum before even the possibility of freedom. Additionally, the judge said, you are ordered to pay full restitution to the HOA, $187,000, plus $500,000 to the Crawford family for Emma's medical expenses and pain and suffering. Your assets will be liquidated to meet these obligations. The gavel fell with a sharp crack. Karen was led away in handcuffs. She looked back once. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I saw nothing there. No regret, no humanity, just emptiness. 6 months later, Emma stood before her easel in our backyard on a beautiful spring morning. Her hands still trembled slightly, but she had learned to work with it, to incorporate it into her artistic style. The paintings were different now, bolder strokes, more impressionistic rather than precise and detailed. But they were beautiful, perhaps even more beautiful than before, because they carried the weight of her experience. She had painted our neighborhood again, but this time it included something new and wonderful. People helping each other. Mrs. Chin is watering flowers. Children playing together. Mr. Martinez is walking his therapy dog. The Johnson's daughter is riding her pink bicycle freely. A community healed and united. "What do you think, Dad?" Emma asked. "It's absolutely perfect," I said honestly. "I call it home," Emma said softly. "Because that's what this place truly became after everything happened. People stood up for each other. They protected each other. That's what home really means." Sarah hugged Emma carefully. "You did that, sweetheart. Your courage helped people find their own courage." The HOA had new leadership now. Robert Chin ran it with fairness and genuine compassion. The first thing they did was create a special fund to help families with disabled members make necessary home modifications. They named it Emma's Fund. Emma had received a full scholarship to a prestigious art camp for disabled youth. She made friends there, found wonderful mentors. Her artwork was featured in a gallery exhibition titled Unbroken Art by Adaptive Artists. The Peterson family came to that exhibition. Their son stood in front of Emma's paintings with tears streaming down his face. "She's doing it," he whispered to his father. "She's not letting them win." James Peterson looked at me with gratitude. "Thank you for fighting, for showing us we should have fought too." "It's never too late to find your voice," I said. Young Peterson approached Emma shyly. "Your paintings are amazing." Emma smiled warmly. "Thank you so much." "Do you paint?" He nodded. "I used to, before people were mean about my disability." Emma offered him a brush from her collection. "Paint with me now. We can be wobbly together." I watched them paint side by side. Two kids who had every reason in the world to give up, but who chose creation instead of destruction. Emma is 15 years old now. Her hands have healed remarkably well, though she still has some limitations that she'll carry forever. She's adapted, and more than that, she's absolutely thrived despite everything. She's starting high school next month, and she's at the top of her class academically. She's already taking college-level architecture courses online. Her bedroom walls are completely covered with building designs, and every single one features universal accessibility as a core principle. Wide doorways, ramps instead of stairs, buttons and controls at heights everyone can reach. Karen Mitchell is now in year 3 of her 30-year sentence. I don't think about her very often anymore, to be completely honest. She became irrelevant the moment she walked away and left Emma broken on the ground. Our family's energy went entirely into healing, not into hating. That was a conscious choice we made together. The neighborhood is genuinely different now. Softer, kinder, more connected. People actively look out for each other. The rules matter far less than the people do. That's the way it should have always been. Mrs. Chin's daughter moved back to our area last year. Mrs. Chin now lives just 2 streets over from us. She visits Emma every single week without fail. They paint together, 2 artists of different generations sharing their love of color and light. Emma's autumn painting, the one that was damaged but carefully repaired, hangs in a place of honor in Mrs. Chin's living room. It's a permanent reminder that beautiful things can survive being broken. Sometimes they come back even stronger. I'm still an assistant commissioner of police, but I'm home much more now than I used to be. My priorities changed fundamentally after that terrible day. Emma taught me something profound. Power means absolutely nothing if you don't use it to protect the vulnerable and speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Tonight, Emma is in her room painting as the sun sets. I can hear her humming softly to herself. She always hums when she creates, lost in her own artistic world. Sarah and I stand quietly in the doorway, watching our daughter work with such focus and determination. "She's going to change the world someday," Sarah whispers to me. "She already has," I reply, and I mean it with my whole heart. Emma turns around, catching us watching her with those proud parent expressions on our faces. "What?" she asks with a smile. "Nothing, sweetheart," I say. "We just love you so much." She grins with that beautiful smile that lights up her whole face. "I love you too. Want to see what I'm working on?" We walk into her room together. Her canvas shows a building, tall, modern, beautiful, and welcoming. But at its base, a wide ramp curves gracefully upward in an elegant spiral. Windows are positioned at wheelchair height. Buttons and controls are placed where everyone can reach them, regardless of their physical abilities. Doors are wide enough for any mobility device. "It's my dream," Emma says, her voice filled with passion and purpose. "The first building I'm going to design when I become a licensed architect. I'm calling it the House of Everyone because every single person deserves a home they can enter, a building they can navigate, a space where they belong." I hug my daughter tightly. This warrior in a wheelchair, this artist with trembling hands, this girl with an absolutely unbreakable spirit that nothing and no one could destroy. Karen Mitchell tried to break her. She used her position of power to hurt a child. Instead, Emma broke through every limitation that people tried to place on her. She turned pain into purpose, suffering into strength, cruelty into compassion. And that, I realize as I hold my daughter, is the greatest form of justice and the most powerful revenge of all. Not destroying your enemy, but refusing to be destroyed by them. Living fully and completely, loving fiercely and without reservation, creating beauty and meaning from pain and hardship. Emma is painting her future one wobbly brush stroke at a time, and it is absolutely magnificent to witness. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. She's not just healing, she's helping others heal. She's not just dreaming, she's building those dreams into reality. The scar on her spine will always be there. The limitations in her hands will likely never completely disappear. But those scars tell a story of survival, of courage, of refusing to give up when the world tried to break you. Karen thought she could eliminate what she saw as an inconvenience in her perfect neighborhood. She thought she could hurt a child and walk away without consequences. She thought her position and power made her untouchable. She was wrong about all of it. The justice system worked exactly as it should. The community came together when it mattered most. Good people found their voices and their courage, and a 12-year-old girl showed the entire world what real strength looks like. Emma's story isn't just about what was done to her, it's about what she did with it. It's about choosing creation over destruction, hope over despair, and forgiveness over bitterness. It's about refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your future. If you're watching this and you've experienced injustice, if someone has tried to break you, if you've been targeted simply for being different, please know that you are not alone. Your voice matters. Your story matters. You matter. Stand up. Speak out. Document everything. Find allies who believe you. Fight for what's right, even when it's hard, even when you're afraid. Because justice may not come quickly, but it does come when good people refuse to stay silent. Thank you for taking the time to watch Emma's story. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges. Share this video with someone who needs to hear a message of hope today. And most importantly, hold your loved ones close tonight. Tell them you love them. Protect them fiercely. Stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Emma taught me that being kind is more powerful than being cruel. Creating is more powerful than destroying. Love is more powerful than hate. She's 15 years old and she's already wiser than most people twice her age. She's my hero. She's my inspiration. And she's proof that the human spirit, when tested, can emerge stronger than anyone ever imagined possible. God bless you all. Thank you for being part of Emma's journey. Together, we can build a world that's accessible, inclusive, and kind to everyone. A true house of everyone. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.